These assholes love to act like America's some great bastion for freedom. But it's all horseshit. This country is filled with poverty and economic serfdom. They impose their white supremacist doctrine onto the world via intimidation and call it influence. Claiming that free market capitalism saves the world. And of course spreading democracy, which is code for spreading white supremacy. But here's the deal. If it's all true, why use sanctions? If free market capitalism is so fucking great, then take the sanctions let the market decide the fate of Iran, North Korea, Venezuela, and any other independent nations who hold geopolitical significance to white supremacist oligarchs, but don't put up with their fuckery. Yeah. But we know that ain't gonna happen. Is it, Jack and Dandies? See, here's the deal. Free market capitalism, as they explain it, is bullshit. And in America, it's the biggest lie running. This ain't a capitalist country. It's an oligopoly. You ain't got freedom of speech or anything. You ain't got nothing, especially if it reaches too many people. Once it does, you're seen as a threat and you're neutralized. They'll hit you with bullshit charges and throw you in jail. Some guy was taking publicly available research papers, put them on the net. They said he was trafficking drugs and threw him in prison for years. Julian Assange, all he did was expose America's war crimes. And now he's gonna either get executed or spend the rest of his life in prison. We all know that it's all bullshit. The technocrats, the religious sector, finance, weapons, agriculture, drugs, and all other industries, their leaders are all clicked in, and they're protected by the United States government. Every aspect of it, from the intelligence agencies to the military itself. I mean, America's biggest welfare queens are Lockheed, Raytheon, and Boeing. No, these aren't fat chicks that like to go to the Piggly Wiggly and take poses in front of city-painted backgrounds on walls. No, 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 no. These are military contractors. We even saw the United States government bail out Chase Bank after giving them $33 billion in assets from Washington. From Washington Mutual. They gave them $33 billion in assets, with none of Washington Mutual's debt burden, for $1.5 billion. Thanks to Sheila Bair and the white supremacist pawn Barack Hussein Obama. How in the hell is it free with thousands of regulations created to stifle new growth, stopping new companies from starting up? Government enforced policies that allow pharmaceutical companies and hospitals to jack up everything from Band-Aid to saline bags so high that getting your arm wrapped up costs so much that you probably need to take out a second fucking mortgage. How's it free when, if you're a pedestrian, damn near 35% of your income is taxed? Unless of course you're an oligarch, then it's 25. But when you factor in capital gains, you get most of your money back, so you lose nothing. On top of all this, in this so-called glorious land of free market capitalism, it's illegal to start a business until getting state permission. which includes the aforementioned bullshit regulations, which, by the way, were created to purposely price average people out of damn near every market, minus food. And even that's headed in the same direction. See, the government's owned by the oligarchs. These politicians pick the winners and losers in the market, propping them up with their tax dollars when they don't outright steal them via the Fed, which is literally a conglomerate of banks owned by the white supremacist oligarchs. See, pedestrian white supremacists, they love to focus on the Jewish chairman rather than the money that those CEOs help to grow at our expense. They never talk about the source of the money. Ever. They'll focus on a Ben Bernanke or what's his name? Feldman or whatever. They'll focus on those guys. When you start talking about the Rockefellers and the Morgans, all those dudes, all those families, then it's F you Negro and white power and all this garbage. They want to shut you up. Start flagging you. Because they don't want to focus on the white supremacist oligarchs. And the media, they're definitely in cahoots with these jackasses. They've had the same canned talking points every 4 years, which is why we always get banned around the same time for calling them out. These goddamn budget deficits. The surpluses, man, get the fuck out of here. When the economy grows, the middle class doesn't benefit. The working class, they just get dick slammed. Only the elite, regardless of their citizenship status, benefit. And that's why Americans get poorer as the economy grows. Those homeless all over Seattle and Silicon Valley are a direct result of hyper-capitalism. Pricing them out, zoning them out, all to cater to the CIA and DARPA created technocrats. Most Americans don't have any wealth outside of real estate. And even then, they can manipulate you out of that just by messing with the local tax code so that they jack up your annual housing tax so much that you can't afford to live there even if you own the home outright. And I put own in quotes. So they can't get money for having money. All the average jackadandy has is income and credit, which allows them to function from the red. So not only can they not compete, they can't even start, because like I said, if you're struggling to survive, you won't be able to vote with your dollar. You won't even be able to pool your dollars to make a difference as a group. As I said, the 25% taken from the riches, and this is damn near in every country under American intimidation. It's given back to the wealthy when you factor in the capital gains. And these tax cuts that usually spur the economy, aka create shit jobs. See, they'll get that money back on top of all the money they made. Whereas for Main Street, you're lucky to get your little shitty tax refund. And you saw what they did with the Obamacare, or aka Richard Nixon care crap. They got rid of the individual mandate, and then they fixed the tax code and jacked you for even more money. That's your country, man. Land of the fucking free. Your income plummets even more. You get into the social safety net. Once you throw that into the mix, it gets really dicey. And then they get you to hate it. They get you to hate it. Hate the damn resources you pay for to survive by adding even more taxes onto them. Making it to where you think that if those resources were gone, you'd get more of your meager money back in a check. Good luck with that shit. They'll make more budget cuts to that. Make you pay more via cleaning up the tax code. And you'll sit there and like it. Because freedoms are some shit. So when they talk about surpluses and getting the deficit down on top of a booming economy, what they're really saying is they took more of your money and handed it to corporations, the elite, Israel, the military, and other bullshit. And that's not even considering the general cost of living. To where you end up with absolutely nothing. And you'll continue your shitty existence just like the other nations under America's sphere of intimidation. I got into an argument with some clown on Facebook before they banned me, where we were talking about Venezuela, and we were basically shooting down all this horseshit argument saying they would be better under Russia. They have been ever since 2014, which made it more difficult for America to fuck with them. And this guy brought up South Korea and Japan. I said if they weren't so damn close to China, they'd probably be in the same goddamn position. So he said some other bullshit I don't remember. And I was like, oh yeah, well, you want to live a shitty existence just like Honduras does under America's sphere of intimidation? They're doing real great. Now that they have a new dictator America put in there, right? The motherfucker got quiet. I log on 2 days later. I get kicked off for harassment. So that's all you need to know. Sphere of influence my fucking ass. Thing is, a realistic view of the market economy shows us that capitalism limits freedom. And to the retards that come on here with that socialism shit, socialism is an illusion. The Bolsheviks were propped up by the United States oligarchs and the government. I already broke that down repeatedly, which is why they tried to delete the video. And any other person that brings up these facts gets deleted. And no, it wasn't the Jews, it was regular Americans, the Ford Corporation, Red Cross, General Motors, General Electric, Exxon, it was Standard Oil back then. God, there were so many people involved. There were State Department records showing this shit. Anyway, the point is, there's no feasible alternative to this. I mean, there are, but you know they'll get shot down. And as it stands, capitalism limits freedom. It fosters a huge buildup of private power by concentrating individual wealth amongst people who are already rich and locking in corporate control over markets and thus society. Because like I said, if you have the economic might, you have the political might, which leads to the physical, aka the military. And then that gets you the propaganda, the media and all that, so you're locked in 100%. You can just drown out any independent media sources with your vast fucking resources. They can't do shit. And that allows them to control society. So capitalism fails to provide positive freedom to the majority of society. It also fails to preserve other aspects of freedom that they may not like, such as hate speech, exposing crimes, things of that nature. Because if the oligarchs are the one doing the crimes, they don't want anybody to know, so they're going to cut off their ability to do that. But to keep the backlash low, they'll put it under the guise of protecting freedoms, or protecting liberty, or fighting terrorism, whatever horseshit buzzword they have for the times. There's no protection from the power plays of the white supremacist oligarchs. See, this anti-competitive capitalism forces people to find work in labor markets that they control due to the artificial constraints created by the oligarchs. On these terms, the tyrannical rule of the white supremacist oligarch destroys any hope of rebellion or worse, actual competition. This is shown based on the fact that in order to get the basics of life, to get the basics, most people have to submit to the corporate dictatorship of the modern workplace. The day-to-day scheduling to where you have to work around their needs. You have to live around their needs. You have to move to where they have the resources instead of creating your own where you live due to these bullshit regulations and the fines that come from bucking the system, aka expressing economic freedom. The mind games and insults, the favoritism, and all the other bullshit aspects that come from being, what do they call it, pleb in the workplace. Not to mention the restrictions on freedom of expression and speech. They even regulate your life outside of work. And this is done to create a society based on their contempt of the general public and their need to exercise power over it. Their experiments done on the Unabomber during its time in Harvard show us what they think of us. What they think of us all. Even though it's always MXJ and GTG on this channel. See, as I constantly stress on here, the laborer, when he becomes more intelligent, due to a better income, lack of stress, and ability to easily accumulate resources, develops what he already has, his own human resources. That's the power that, when organized and combined for its own protection, can become a powerful fist against abuse by capitalists, which prevents oligarchy. I don't really think it's possible to stop it at this point. The manufacturing mentality, the social engineering, whatever you want to call it, has brainwashed people to not even look at that as an option. All they do is look to the same people screwing them over for their solutions. Collective organization by the people is the true guarantor of freedom and a deterrent against tyranny, which is why they destroyed the social safety net and obliterated all the rights given in the New Deal, turning them against you. The FCC, for instance, was created to give the Main Street representation in the media, protect them from and allow them to expose corporate and government lies. Now, the FCC works for corporations and will clean you out over MP3s and ideas that reach too many ears and piss off too many high-ups. But to digress, my aggregate point remains: capitalism as we know it is bullshit. It's anti-competitive. It cannot function without capital. And since that capital is concentrated amongst a few elite families and consortiums, the idea of average people pulling themselves up and living free is a pipe dream, unless you find a way to work around the system. because individual freedoms and happiness amongst the pros is seen as a threat to them. It gets you thinking, and that leads to action, which leads to clearing the board. Get it? Bitch.